So we're going to the Temple of Garl Glittergold.
Yeah, we are.
To speak with...
Dead, possibly.
Ertix
Wait,
Cowlix
yeah.
is the priest.
This is the guy that brought Seeker back from the dead?
I don't remember where you guys did that.
I definitely went to the Temple of Carl Glittergold.
Oh, then yeah, you guys are repeat customers, I suppose. Sure
I wasn't a follower of him before, I am now. I'm gonna get my punch card.
Like they
Time is
punch
free.
The Acolytes express concern when you guys show up in the state that you're in, half-eaten by leeches.
Yeah, it's a whole thing that happened.
We have finally made contact with the flying pig.
The important thing is we
Occupational
can't
hazard.
afford to repair it.
And Ertix would like to hear reports about how your trickstering has gone today.
Gus kind of shakes his head. It's
Oh, and Florian absolutely tells him the whole story of how we try to set up and, like, catfish, like, people thinking they're becoming warlocks, and it wasn't actually a thing, and then, oh shit, we were actually pissed off the actual flying pig god, and he left an exploding thing at our boat, and it was a noble attempt.
An exploding thing.
Yeah.
Gus is shaking his head no during this entire conversation, just back and forth.
As a
Florian
gnome-
is unusually a little too excited about the events that occurred.
Like Gus will speak up and says, well, this prank has certainly taught me a lesson."
Don't listen to Florian.
Ertix asks what you've learned. I mean, you tell him the part about how you tried to scam this woman out of buying you drinks because she didn't know you were gay, but you ended up getting too drunk and she scammed you instead.
No, I'm gonna leave that part out.
You're gonna leave that part out?
That's the funny part, though.
I guess we'll leave. Okay, fine. I'll leave it in. And be like, I learned not to. He just got like.
He takes great delight in the story.
Like he goes, I don't know what I learned. All I know is that the next time he has an idea, I'm going to sit on him.
The interesting part of that story is that the man who thinks he is clever is often himself outwitted. And this is seen as good by Garl Glittergold.
I didn't learn that lesson.
But then we get to the part where the exploding thing, and as a gnome, he's curious about the nature of this device that was left to explode.
It was not a device. It was a person.
And now, all remnants of joy have washed away from his face.
It was the same people that, and he points at like the direction of the guy that we brought. Like it's the same group that we're chasing. They seem to not like us very much.
And so an innocent life has been lost because of the nature of your prank. Am I understanding this properly? He's asking Gus.
And Gus shakes his head yes, and he goes, and Gus is not very happy about that.
He says that Garl Glittergold would not hold you or Florian accountable for this man's death, for there is the meddling influence of a sinister fiend that is becoming more and more apparent. Nonetheless, it is the nature of tricks and pranks and illusion to have unforeseen consequences, unforeseen reactions in people. You can never tell how somebody might react to a trick if they discover it, even if the trick was well-meaning and even if they have suffered no harm.
Gus It's like, oh, don't worry, they're going to suffer harm. And Gus kind of steps away.
What about Lucius?
So Lucius will explain. He'll take out his deck of cards and explain what he was trying to do, telling a fable about a man who thought himself clever to become powerful, and by taking shortcuts and basically making up a morality play that is a thinly veiled retelling of his own life.
And what is your assessment of your own success at pulling off this scheme?
Very little. I did give them the opportunity to make a donation if they were feeling of a mind, and that was. I mean, maybe I erred in that decision, but
He says
Lucius hands over the alms box.
it still has 10 silver in it.
Yeah.
Okay. He accepts the 10 silver donation. He tells you the weakness of your trick is that when you call into question a mark's morality, you make them defensive. And when you make them defensive, you make them more alert and more susceptible to look for tricks. So you should have gone the opposite direction with your morality play. You should have distracted them, lulled them into complacency, and then stole from them.
Lucius chuckles a little bit.
Nonetheless, the spirit of your... Well, I guess he's going to ask Alex as well, now that Alex is here.
I didn't realize I had an assignment this week.
You
Sorry,
didn't, but
I feel like I'm back in seminary again.
You didn't, but you're still a gnome, so he still kind of assumes you're just out there tricking people all the time.
No, I've been pretty busy. Sorry. Like, he's literally like, the Catholic schoolboy that's had far too much of it in his life already. Like, that is exactly the tone he takes with these people.
Okay. So here's what's going to happen. He's going to try to remove the curse on the thirsty man. If it doesn't work, and he suspects it won't, given the nature of the being that we're dealing with here, all he can do is make the man unconscious and speed on his passing, make it as comfortable for him as possible. However, he does have some experience in tricking death. So he has prepared a Speak with Dead spell that he thinks he can use to trick the path of this man's soul so that whatever fiend is expecting it doesn't get it. The way Speak with Dead works is you cast it and you can ask 5 questions of the target. Each of these questions consumes some of the magic of the spell. If you ask all 5 questions, there's no chance this man's soul can be rescued. He's going to end up at whatever fiend has claimed him. If you ask fewer than 5 questions, the fewer questions you ask, the greater the opportunity there might be to salvage his soul. And he asks if these terms are acceptable to you. You're going to have to weigh the information you think you can get out of him to help prevent this fiend from continuing to operate in Dunfoss against the weight of saving this one man's soul.
Well, what do we think this guy knows, guys?
Like, okay, so the question.
I'm pretty sure I've derived the location that he was trying to attack, and it completely makes sense.
Okay.
Like, Warlock Spain was looking into the flying pig. She's probably one of the greatest threats to them in the city. So I'm pretty sure the math all adds up on that one. So I don't think asking about the target is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 questions that I had lined up were, what's your target?
Can you repeat that, Treble? You kind of roboted on me.
Yeah, you're roboting me too. So.
Yeah, Discord. Might need to reset Discord.
I'm gonna change the server real quick.
We'll let Nodal fix it. Nodal's good at fixing it.
It's easy. I'll show you guys after this. Alright,
Are we good?
Hello.
we should be good.
Hello.
All right, Treble, go
That
ahead.
sounds a lot
right.
better.
The 3 questions I had, which one of them is moot, but the other 2 were you working alone, and if not, with whom? And then where did you get the letter from? The only question I think that is really relevant, especially since Gus is going to want to have the maximum chance this man saves his soul is saved, is basically the last one. If we even ask any questions at all.
I think asking where you got the letter from isn't that important. I would ask him, if we were going to only ask one question, what means he had of reporting back. Like, how is he going to get in contact with the flying pig?
So Florian's stance is pretty clear that we should not be getting into the soul-saving business.
Yeah,
We're
Alex is
detectives,
actually
not
completely
clergy.
on that one.
We should ask him 5 questions.
Alex thinks we should ask as many questions as we think will be useful. So if we can't come up with 5 useful questions, may as well give him a chance. But
Yeah.
as far as useful questions, was the halfling we fought in the underground, was that, what's his name? Ruxpin's guy?
As far as you know, but he wasn't
Okay.
acting like any halfling you've ever seen.
But he looked like him, right?
He did. He looked like a halfling.
Okay.
Yes.
He looked like Thaddeus specifically?
Like the descriptions we got of him.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Because we were asking everybody what he looked like.
Yeah.
I would ask him... What happened? What process was used? What do I want to say here? What was used to turn Thaddeus into that thing? Right? Like we should try and figure out what they're doing to turn people into these horrible insect-filled things. I would ask him if he ever met Ruxpin, and if so, where and when. I would want to ask him where he got the magical components that we did not stop from going through to him, because he didn't get the dragon powder, but he seemed to get a whole lot of other stuff. And I think that's all the useful questions I can think of.
I'm surprised to hear you say you don't care what happens to the man's soul, given that you care so much about the preservation of a dead body. What could be a greater desecration of this man's body than to not let his soul rest in peace?
I mean, he brought this on himself. Like,
He also
there's a difference between like someone going in and desecrating a body and someone making a contract with an unbelievable force from another world that comes to claim on it later.
I mean, he seemed, the brief conversation we had with him, he seemed, you know, resigned and
Like I said, I'm not saying we waste our questions to send him along. Like, but I don't think that we should get in. I don't think it's our job to rewrite this contract.
My perspective is, I don't want to give this fiend anything. And so if we can
Yeah.
keep one soul from him, that's good enough for me.
Well,
Yeah.
fair enough. So
my
what
perspective.
are the most useful questions you can think of? Because I think the most useful question I can think of is where do you get the other magic stuff for this explosion?
See, I don't find that useful at all, just because they're standard magical components. None of them even seem to be worth very much. You can buy that in any store.
Not the boxes and the sheets.
The boxes and the sheets, sure.
That's what I'm talking about.
So, in that case, is that the question you guys think we should ask? Where did he get the boxes and the sheets? That sounds good to me, because I think
Yeah.
it'll answer my question of how he's getting in contact with this person, this
Fair
flying
enough.
pig.
So as soon as you guys give the high priests the go-ahead, he's going to try to remove the curse. If that succeeds, the rest of it is just trivia, because then you can ask him whatever you want.
Yeah.
But once he tries to do this, he's going to have to quickly fall on Plan B.
So
My-
what exactly are we paying for today?
At the moment, you're not paying for anything. Right now,
Okay.
Given that Seeker is such a devout follower of Garl Glittergold and a personal favorite of this high priest,
Okay.
Wait, what? Did Garl tell you that?
so you're brought into the room. where the thirsty man is laying, and his whole face at this point, coming outward from his lips, up under his nose, and starting under his eyes, and going down his cheeks and his neck, look just desiccated, just gaunt and miscolored, and his breath is very raspy. And you watch as Airtix performs the ritual that is supposed to balm this man of the curse. And part of it involves him laying his hands on the man's chest and anticipating the rise and fall of his breath. And after a moment, the gnome jerks backwards with a yelp of pain, and his eyes shock open. And he's breathing very haggard. And his eyes dart around the room like he doesn't know where he is for a moment. But he regains his composure, dusts off his vestments, catches his breath, shakes his head sadly, and says that the fiend who has placed this curse has a hold on the man's body that is active and strong and beyond his powers to repel.
Mm-hmm.
The best we can do is speed this man to his demise and then hope to save him in the next life.
Right? Is everyone good on our question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give the nod then to the priest.
The gnome just sadly hands Gus a really big pillow.
You
A
want me-
novelty pillow. It's a body pillow.
It's like it's a
What? No, Nodal. Why?
That's kind of a hole in the player's handbook. Is there's no like low level spell to like give a creature just a painless death, like a culling spell?
I think that's what a dagger is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's stabbing. That's awful.
not if you stab him in the temple.
He's asleep.
So, what's the? I think in second edition we use the reverse of cure wounds for this purpose.
Yeah, inflict. Yeah, that's what killed Seeker.
That definitely was not painless though. But I could see that same spell being used for a painless version for this purpose. But just to be clear, Seeker, you died in horrible, horrible pain.
I blocked most of that out.
Yeah, it's all you
Ricker was
remember.
Giggling the
That was a
entire
lifetime
time.
ago.
The gnome speaks the words, and for a moment, the man's breath becomes ragged and hoarse, and then unpredictable, and then he falls silent. And he bids you to think of the questions you would ask this man's spirit. You're going to have 10 minutes. And how many questions are we asking him?
I think our plan is just to ask him the one.
Just the
Just
one?
the one, I think.
We want to know where he got the magical sheets and what was the other one?
Fireboxes.
Boxes.
Fireboxes.
That's 2 questions. Where did you get the magical sheets? Where did you get the fireboxes?
Well, let's listen to the answer for the first one before we figure out whether we have to ask him the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the priest casts the spell Speak with Dead and bids you ask your first question.
Where did you get the magical sheets?
He gives you only a name, and I will let Lucius and Alexander decide whether this name is known to them. Leonid Hosnard. Hosnard is
Sure.
a house in Dunfossin nobility that is known to have a decent amount of wealth, but is not actually acknowledged as being nobility by older houses. They're kind of new money. So they're kind of like noble appearance. And then he asks if there are more questions.
That sounds like a lead to me. I think we're good.
That sounds like a lead, yeah.
Alright, then we will give this guy 4 saving throws to save his soul.
Saving throw his soul.
What's the DC on a soul save?
I'm taking a picture of this, because if I don't take a picture of this, you guys will not believe me. I've never seen this on 4 dice. I mean, I could have just arranged the dice like this, I guess, but I didn't. Yeah. I rolled 3 1s
Wow.
on 4 d20s. I have
Wow.
the photographic evidence.
And a fourth roll of.
14.
That's pretty good. Can't expect
Sure.
more than that.
Airtix tells you, as the spell dissipates, he tells you that no one will ever know for sure the destination of this man's soul, but he sensed him being calm as he left. He thinks the man arrived somewhere more pleasant. He thinks that you guys have cheated this fiend out of his soul.
Lucius looks a little bit skittish at the others.
And then he looks at Florian, and he says that, given today's events, we know that this creature, this fiend, is already angered with you and knows your identities. And now I think he will have more cause to consider you his enemies.
I agree, and I am very excited.
We can handle it. Pat Florian on the back.
Never had a fiend as an enemy before. This will be fascinating.
He tells you that the man's remains will be turned over to the Blackjackets for disposal, and whatever investigation they think might need to happen.
Certainly.
He tells Seeker he looks forward to seeing him at Mass every Sunday from now on.
If I lie and say I'll be there, is that is that plus or minus in my favor?
It's not a lie, Seeker. It's a trick.
That's what I'm thinking.
You just have to know the words with them. Don't worry.
He says that you lot, meaning all of Flumph Inc., has brought him no small amount of devastation this past week or so. He asks if there's much more in the future.
I mean,
Probably.
when you turn over a rock, you see bugs beneath it, right?
He says that his curiosity, which 2 of you being gnomes, you realize that it's getting the better of him. He's unsure exactly why you've chosen his small temple and this particular deity who isn't known for healings or revivals or great and tremendous works.
Because he was tricked in the wrong kind of way, and we figured maybe Garl Glitter Gold would help right that.
Look, it's just the way I grew up. I mean, you know, I can still appreciate it.
He kind of speaks to me. Not literally, though. And I don't want that to change. And Seeker just kind of points at him. You tell him.
So, Airtix is going to spend every night from now on casting the dream spell to mess with Seeker. From now on. Airtix decides that if it is Garl Glittergold's will, that he will rise to whatever occasion you seek to bring to his doorstep. And he wishes you well in your endeavors and hopes your investigation is satisfying. And one of the acolytes, as you all are taking your leave, politely reminds you that a standard donation for a spell of that magnitude would be in the vicinity of 150 gold.
Journey's good for it.
Donations imply that it's optional.
Alex will hand him a banknote for 148 and drop 2 gold pieces into the coffer.
Okay?
Does that completely wipe out our bank account?
Yep.
I'm calling this case closed, guys. Let's go talk to the people who owe us money.
No, I think we can collect the expenses from Journey, but until we do some more work, I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah, I think this isn't a.
Tell you one thing, that guy's not going to be doing any more filling people up with bugs.
I don't think he did it because
We just fought something that was filled up with bugs while he was in the temple all day. Do you think those were preparatory bugs?
Brick Road.
Damn it.
Can you put that name out one more time, please?
Sure. It was Leonid Hosnard.
My new good friend.
Everybody's good friend.
There's way too many good friends in the city of Dunfoss. I don't think they understand what that word means.
I think our next step is going to be to hit the streets and find out what we can about this family. What's they?
We've also got as a secondary thing, we've got, since we have no money now.
Well, we still have some money. That was just our bank account.
Well, okay, so here's the thing that, like,
We've got about 100 gold left.
oh, okay. But I was going to suggest we also have all that stuff we looted from that place. We have that incredibly bright candle, the shade, and then the sheets, and then the box of fire and stuff. And I had a question for Brick Road. How illegal would it be for us to sell that?
There are actually rules in Xanathars for selling magic items. And we would be using those as a downtime action.
Okay. I know, but that wasn't the question I asked.
Mm-hmm.
How illegal would it be? Because you've mentioned previously that you have to have a license to do so.
Only within city limits.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we just sell it to we just bring it to the auction house and sell it to someone with a license, right? Like we have a go-between.
So there's just
Take a cut.
there's no answer to your question, Treble. It's going to depend on what item you're attempting to sell and what buyers you manage to line up and what the terms are and what complications arise. Like, there's no standard buying and selling magic
Okay.
rules. It's going to be
Can I ask another related question?
sure.
So, is it possible for me as an artificer to find some way to break down the magical items and use them to make other magical items, using, like, basically stepping around the normal rule for needing to get the component to make the new item?
Only if the artificer gives you a class feature that says you can do that.
Okay.
And I don't think it does.
Nah, I get a discount eventually, but
That was a 3.5 thing.
yeah, that's totally how they worked in 3.
What was it called in 4th edition? Residuum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You could melt down magic items.
Well, regardless of what we decide to do, I don't think we should sell the boxes of the destructive boxes of fire. We should probably throw those in the ocean.
No.
No.
We should store them in the ocean at the very least.
No.
That's actually not a bad idea.
And how do you propose we store something in the ocean?
And
We-
I tap my hat.
We literally take an iron box, we tie a chain to it, and we throw it over the side of the barge.
Well, I'll just go down there and hammer, some pittons into the floor of the waterbed, a couple 100 feet out from the ship.
Yeah, do you really want boxes of magical fire that explode very, very hot on our very wooden ship?
Oh no, I'm super down with the spring it underneath the water plan. That was never the issue.
So what are we doing
But
with
no,
these
I
two
don't-
boxes?
Alex is going to take a large iron box and some pittons,
Okay.
and he's going to, about 50 feet off the shore of where we have the Sigillian moored, he's going to hammer those into the seabed floor. If he has to dig through a lot of soot to get to actual rock, he'll maybe spend a whole day doing it with his water breathing, and he's going to secure them down there.
You're doing this about 50 feet in which direction off the barge?
North?
North? Okay.
And yeah, I'm assuming that'll take some number of actions, like daytime actions.
This will be a kind of all day.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
But one other thing we also got to keep in mind is on the 6th, we have the Ponce more information, and we haven't looked into anything, and we don't have 500 gold.
Is anybody taking a long rest tonight? Or are you all going to work tonight?
Florian
take-
is absolutely taking a
Yeah, I
long
need a
rest.
long rest.
Yeah, I need a long rest.
If you'll let me borrow the hat, I will work through the night to get rid of the fire.
Sure.
That way, it's not on the boat. I just Listen, I don't trust the fire on the very
That's
flammable
fair.
boat.
So guys, you take these 2 boxes filled with fire, underwater, about 50 feet north of the barge, and attach them with an iron chain.
They're in an iron box, so like they're in an iron lock box that is
Okay.
then locked, and then that is attached to a chain.
That iron box is going to rust and kind of be destroyed over time. Like, this is not a permanent solution. We're aware of that?
Sure.
Okay. And are you snaking the chain back to the barge so you can reel it in, or are you just leaving it there as a marker so you can go find it again if you want?
We'll just say that like there's a buoy.
You put a buoy
Which
out
I
there?
don't think we need a buoy. I think just write down where it is. Like,
Yeah, we can see underwater if we have the hat.
If you
Oh,
put a
yeah,
buoy out there, somebody else is going to go find it.
yeah,
No buoy. Okay, then I'll just like chain it to the ground. Like find a rock or something like a jutting out,
Okay.
and just
And you do that. And everybody except Gustavus can take the benefits of a long rest.
before the rest, I pour the alchemist jug and set it to acid and make 2 more vials.
Okay. And next day is the 23rd. What are our morning actions on the 23rd?
Oh my god, I'm just not even right now. I can't.
I'm assuming we want to go as a group to investigate. What was the guy's name? The family name?
Leonid Hosnard.
Hosnar.
Hosnard.
Do we have any
I
other
think-
leads on the Ponce right now?
Yeah, that's a good point.
We never did track down the person who cast the vote the last time Fireblood was in the records.
I have a name
Right.
here, Cisterni Davtor.
Do we just want to spend the day in the running through the records for both of those, try and get our ducks together, find out what we can figure out just from writings?
I can
I
go talk
do.
to some of my underworld contacts and see if any of them have any business with this Hosnard fellow.
That name doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, I'm
Lucius.
not familiar with it either.
Where did you get it? Where did it come from?
It was a dwarven family I tried to speak to, and
Oh, right.
I got the cold shoulder.
do you think one of us should go speak to them? Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't know. I'm sorry. My brain's not right now. No, right now we're at the point where we still don't know who cast that vote, and I tried to talk to this person, and I got the cold shoulder at the door. I didn't even get in to see with them.
There's 2 other things we could try. Someone could go and try and collect on expenses from Journey for the plot on Warlock Spain. So I think that's a sure enough case that we actually have a case for it. It's about 250 gold, and someone could go and try to sell these magical sails.
I can go talk to Journey.
Okay, I'd be willing to go try and sell the sails, but let me look at how long that actually takes.
Forever, probably.
A week,
can go.
probably.
Yeah.
I'll research who cast the vote. It was a deciding vote, right?
No.
Do we know anything about what? Sorry, what do we know about this vote?
It was one among many that installed Juliana the First. 60 years after Fireblood supposedly vanished. The house supposedly vanished.
Okay, I'm gonna research that.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the deal. I don't think I'll be selling these because it comes down to a charisma persuasion. It also costs 25 gold pieces to get leads and requires a week of work.
So that sounds like something we'll do during some off time.
Well, the thing is, it's like we're at a pretty tight time crunch at the moment. We can't really afford to waste a whole lot of time on things.
So that's what I'm saying. It sounds like something we'll do during some off time.
So,
Not worry
Florian,
about it for now.
you're going to investigate this Fireblood vote. You're doing this how?
Yes. I think I've asked this before, but there's no like public records or anything like that, right? Like historical records.
Not particularly.
Like,
What Lucius was trying to do is find somebody who was actually alive and casting votes at that time, which would limit your search to noble houses of dwarves or maybe very old half-elves.
half elves. All right.
Maybe, because half-elves
Maybe.
live longer than humans, but not exceptionally longer.
Not a whole lot, yeah.
Well, sometimes you just got to chase down probably cold leads. So let's just start asking houses. Cold. What's the term?
Cold calling.
Yeah, cold calling houses and see if anything bites.
Today's the 22nd, right?
So tomorrow it will be the 23rd.
Yeah. Can I do investigation on all of the legal records I can, looking for anything interesting on the Hasnard family?
One of you
Alexander-
said that you knew something about the Hasnards. Is that correct? When I asked?
Lucius did, yes.
So what Lucius would know is they're a family that has some amount of wealth. Like they lucked into finding a gold or silver vein on their land, perhaps. They've established themselves in Dunfoss very recently. But the head of the house, Leonid, his actual title is Lord Expectans, which means he's not a lord in terms of being Dunfossan nobility, but he's making that attempt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you would know about his house before doing any kind of research or before approaching them at all.
So, yeah, Lucius would easily volunteer that information.
I should hope so. So,
So-
are you trying to find out whether he's got like illicit deals or where? Like,
yeah,
the
I'm also
source-
interested, like, if there's any groups that are like sponsoring him for lordship or anything like that.
Okay. How much money are you willing to put into this investigation in terms of?
Like 5 silver. I'm willing to spend I'm willing to spend the whole day on it, but
Okay.
I don't want to spend a lot of money.
So, Alexander, question
Mm-hmm.
for you. Isn't this information we could literally just go get from your father? A lot of it? Isn't he on the like is he's not like Alex's father is not actually on the council of nobles. He's an ambassador to the city. But
I mean,
like
it was a Merkith noble, maybe, but yeah, we might be able to get some. Oh God, you had to say that, didn't you? You had to.
like this is information that like
Yes,
you have a
I
resource.
understand what you're coming with me. All right. If this comes to blows,
Why would it come to
I need
blows?
you to stop me.
Wait, oh, you want meat? Okay, I'll sit on you if that comes to okay.
So, what information are you hoping that the ambassador's office has? Because he probably wouldn't know very much about Hasnard unless his wealth is overlaps with deep Merksith interests in some way.
Yeah, I mean, basically that, and all. I mean, we also have the other noble. Basically, any information on either of the noble houses that we're interested in.
Okay.
And I guess I'll also go ask him if anyone in the embassy or anyone he knows from Merksif has received any of these letters.
How long do gnomes live? Was there a gnome ambassador 60 years ago?
They don't live as long as rock gnomes, but they do live a lot longer than humans.
And until recently, deep gnome lifespans were very short because of all the illithids.
Yeah.
But like I'm just saying, like like
All right.
an embassy ran by gnomes just screams to me it's just going to be like a bureaucratic. They write everything down hell. So I
Yeah.
figure, like if there was an ambassador 60 years ago, they might have it lead to that vote.
Lucius,
Yes.
Right.
are you hoping Florian chased down the Fireblood vote? Is that what I heard?
No, I'm going to talk to Journey about seeing what she's willing to accept as expense for this. So
All right.
what do we got? What are we billing her for? I should ask.
Do you want to look on the contracts tab of Facebook's?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
this is a lot.
well, the two expenses, the only expense that immediately pops to my mind is the the two expenses are that popped in my mind is the broken limbs, which was what 60 gold, and
Here,
then
I'll just read it. So we have Chartographer's tools for 15 gold pieces. We have a crowbar for 2 gold pieces. We have 4 ounces of acid for 25 gold pieces. We have 2 cure wound spells, 10 gold pieces each, provided at cost. That's what it would cost. You would normally charge 20 gold pieces if you were to sell those. We have non-magical healing for 30 gold pieces, and we have a Speak with Dead for 150 gold pieces.
all right, there, Seeker, calm it down.
This
What
is
is-
not a scam. These are legitimate expenses, except for maybe those spells.
What is Seeker doing?
Seeker is putting his ear to the ground to go in and check in with some of his contacts to see if they know this fellow that we've turned up the name of.
What is your background?
Ear to the ground?
No, what's the actual background?
Oh, what is the background? We
You
called it.
made one up, and we called it something.
Yeah. It is con artist.
Okay. And you're looking to find out if this name Hosnard comes up at all in criminal contacts.
Yep.
Florian,
That's me.
walk me through your morning. You're looking into this Fireblood vote by
Yeah.
just going up to manor houses you think that dwarves or half-elves might live in.
Well, surely there's got to be some.
I mean, there are many
No, you know what?
noble houses with dwarves.
Yeah, like
One of which hates our guts.
no, we're not gonna go to that one. We'll go to everyone but that one, or as many as we possibly can. Asking if they sit on the council, and if so, would they be willing to talk about votes that were cast 60 years ago?
Are you targeting anybody in specific? My question is, does Florian have a specific person in mind? If not, you're going to spend your morning figuring out who to ask, and then your afternoon action actually chasing down the lead. Is that okay?
I mean, yeah, that is actually completely 100% okay, because this is not Florian's world. This world is not weird enough for Florian to take an interest in.
Okay. Alexander and Gustavo go
It's
to the... Here, let's get Gnome Town on screen here, because I do have a Gnome Town map.
You mispronounced my character's name.
No, I
I just
didn't.
want you to know that.
I got
Yeah,
it.
you did.
No, I got it
No.
right. I'm fine. It worked. What are you worried about?
All right, Ick Road.
Bronc raid.
So, Gus, for the first time since you've gone anywhere with Alexander, unless you've gone to the embassy before, he did not bring his crossbow. He has his alchemist's kit, but it looks like it's been stripped down quite a bit, and he's not wearing his armor or trench coat or hat. He just has a somewhat looking, like, kind of beaten up, obviously tailored 10 years ago suit of nobleman's clothes, and with his family crest on the shoulder.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
The embassy to Deep Merksif is located in a very large building that stands outside of the wall in Gnome Town, kind of behind a large underground residence. This area here is just the above ground part to a lot of these underground structures where many of the gnomes and dwarves in the area actually live. The actual building of the embassy was repurposed from some other building, an old tap house or an old inn or something, and actually doesn't have an underground component aside from just a single storage cellar. So what would be your father's demeanor when you came to the embassy asking to speak with him?
I mean, probably like kind of, expectant that I was gonna be on good behavior while I was here, and also probably a little bit, I don't want to say concerned, but more like, well, what the hell has he gotten himself into this time?
So,
More like-
Alex,
Thinking about like how this is gonna fall back on him or people of Deep Merks living in Dunfoss, rather than like actually concerned for Alex.
So the first thing you should know is that many I don't know many, but some gnomes in Dunfoss. There are not a lot of deep gnomes here to begin with, but because your father has kind of embraced the culture of Dunfoss, and he probably selected this building to hold the embassy, and there's nothing very Svirfneblin about this place. It's not underground. He's taken for himself a kind of Dunfossan name and given you one as well. And you know that this doesn't sit well with some Merxiv traders that come through, and probably not well with people back home. It's probably still a smart move for the ambassador to have done this. It's showing a willingness on his part to kind of absorb into Dunfossan culture. Whether or not that's one of the sources of your strife with your father is up to you.
No, Alex is like super melting pot culture because he went to like 5 different universities over the course of his life. That's maybe the one thing he respects about his father.
Okay.
So as a since I'm walking into this, why do you hate your father, and what kind of behavior is expected of me? Do I just need to stand behind you and look and frown?
Just grab me if I try and go for, kind of reach to my... Here, this one, the one that makes the hammer pebbles? Don't let me take this off my belt.
I reach down and just take it off his belt and put it in my pocket. Okay, anything else?
No, it's just, You know how when you mix 2 different types of oil and you get a super combustive oil that basically you can't put out even when you push it underwater? My father and my relationship is somewhat like that.
Okay. Are you saying you have that on your belt? Do I need to take that away from you as well?
No, it's back in the lab. That's in the lab.
Okay.
So before you reach your father, one of the staff would probably want to know the exact question. What have you gotten yourself into?
Oh, just an investigation on some sort of warlocks trying to take over the city. I'm trying to do something about it.
Your father does, of course, make time for you. He makes you wait longer than you think is appropriate.
Wow, that's kind of petty.
Yeah, welcome to my family.
And eventually you're shown into his office, which has a desk that's way too big for him. Mm-hmm. And you know that he's had to have a special chair made so he can sit behind it, but he still looks ridiculous back there. He doesn't have any of the old weapons or tools on display. He does have Dunfossan artwork and tapestries along the wall, sculptures and busts and things in the room. And he tells you that he's always delighted to see you, and asks if you or your manservant will take a cup of wine.
Yeah, you know what? This time of day, I think a cup of wine would be... Do you want one, Gus? Also, this is my friend, Gus. He's not really a manservant. He's more of a... What do you say? Coworker.
Yo.
And you can tell that your father does not approve of being spoken to so casually. But he lets the slight go.
Does he have a military rank?
No, he's an ambassador.
Then Gus doesn't care.
And a servant comes in and pours each of you a glass of kind of middling Dunfossan wine. I mean, deep gnomes don't have a good nose for wine at the best of times.
So there's a couple of noble families that are kicking up trouble around town, and also a group of warlocks looking to blow the place up. I was wondering if you could help me at all tracking them down.
He kind of chortles. He suspects that any warlocks would have greater difficulty blowing anything up than... And he rattles off a list of some gnomish professors and alchemists in the area. And you can tell there's some disdain there that he has for these people.
Gus will go, do any of these gnomish professors did they build a tunnel that snaked hundreds of feet under the city where they had set up a thing to blow up a residence from underneath?
Not as far as he knows.
Well, then this guy has your gnomish professors beat.
And I'll pull out a coin and make the image of the flying pig appear on it. And I'll say, this is specifically, we're looking for letters with orange wax and this sigil. as well as I'll list the two families.
Which two families?
The Hasnards, and what was the name of the family that we were looking for the Ponts?
The Fireblood.
Was that? But the person who cast the vote wasn't a Fireblood, were they?
Yeah, they were.
Okay.
They used the Fireblood vote.
Okay, yeah, and the Firebloods.
And
when you ask about
more...
the Firebloods,
mm-hmm.
he kind of slumps back in his chair and places his cup of wine on the desk, and he looks at you with this very familiar, disappointed grimace. He says, "My son, you should know the name Fireblood."
Right. It's not Eldov specifically. I mean, I know they went down there, they brought all the dragon powder and whatnot. It's any of his descendants, basically.
It's the... And I'll, Just will chime in. There was a vote that was cast some 60 years ago, even though it wasn't... They weren't supposed to be... all the records we show the house defunct before 60 years ago. And I've heard such good things about the record keeping of your people that I figured we could come here and see what you had on record.
Takes out a key from this enormous ring of keys that he has hanging near to his desk, and unlocks one of the drawers and slides it open and pulls out this heavy black bound tome that looks ancient, and he blows a layer of dust off of it. And Alex, you recognize it immediately as being a record of the wars of Wilhelm the Bald against the Illithid menace, which to your eyes is history.
Mm-hmm.
And he flips through it for a moment until he comes to a page with illustrations written on it and all kinds of arcane writings surrounding it, written in Gnomish. And the illustration is that of Eldov's stupid hut, showing it marching across this battlefield in the Underdark.
This is dragon legs and everything?
Gus looks at this
right.
like...
After that,
he says
right.
that the men who piloted this mechanical dragon vehicle, whatever it might be, are noted as great heroes in Deep Merksif. But he asks you, do you really believe that a hero who pilots such a mechanism and would do so great works for so many people would care a lick about who sits as King of Dunfoss?
What information would we have gotten about Eldov? It's pretty common knowledge that he wasn't he was kind of separate from the actual house politics, right?
I mean, there's not really much common knowledge surrounding Eldov at all. It's almost mythology at this point.
Gus's impression of Eldov is that he was probably kind of an asshole. And then, he's gonna march down a battlefield in a giant hut with dragon legs? Come on.
Somewhere Eric is nodding in agreement.
Do you vocalize that?
No. This is just the impression that Gus has. It's wow, this Eldov guy was kind of...
Did Eric go down into the Underdark with them for these battles?
Yeah, I think we established that.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, and I mean that is quite frankly part of what we're looking into, is maybe someone else under Eldov's name cast that vote.
And this information pertains to one of your hobbies that you have? Your investigation boat?
Yeah, we're investigators. We're private investigators.
Gus
we help
mouths the
people.
words, investigation boat?
And common is his second language. You'll have to forgive him.
We already stopped them from blowing up the house of someone in Westgate. We're working on this case. It's really important. Is there anything you can do to help us here?
Do you need money?
Yeah, always, but
that-
we're not. There's no way I'm gonna accept money from you.
Is there?
Gus raises his hand and says, "I'll take some."
Have you gotten into financial trouble? Do you owe the wrong people?
No, we probably owe the right people. Look, don't.
So you have to appreciate my
This
position.
is going back to the archaeology degree, isn't it? We're gonna go there, aren't we?
This is a difficult conversation because you come into my office asking questions about.
Look, I
one
could
of
have
the
taken
great-
all of the platinum from
Gus.
that Illithid stronghold and not reported any of it to
Gus.
the authorities. That's rather the way you'd rather
Yeah.
have it.
How long do you sit there listening to this bickering? Because it
There
becomes
was-
clear to you very quickly this is going to go nowhere.
There
Like,
was
Gus is just
incredibly valuable scholastic research done on the origin of every one of those coins.
Like, listen, Gus is in awe because, like, he was raised by a general in an army, and he did what he was told, and this is just fascinating to him. But, like, after about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 30, like, he's going to just, like, put his hand very quietly on Alex's shoulder and be like, and just shake him a little bit, and then look at his father and say, "Sir, we really just would like to see your embassy records. Is all."
The embassy records wouldn't date back to that time. The embassy has only been established fairly recently, historically speaking.
Okay.
And the embassy also has no official stance on any selection of any king. It's not really their department. However, if you're asking him if he can find out somebody who might have known about the vote.
Right. Like, we're just looking for somebody. We need somebody that was there 60 years ago for that. And any information you can get us on that other house whose name escapes me because I don't write things down.
House Hosnard, he hasn't mentioned anything about. The name doesn't mean anything to him.
Okay. But any information he can look into would be helpful.
He wants to know how much his son is paying you.
Gus,
What is your wage?
Gus starts counting on his fingers. 0.
He's co-owner, Dad. Technically, if I had if I actually indexed our accounts, his wage would be roughly negative 600 gold per week at this point. Maybe negative 650. I don't know if Journey's paid us back yet.
I apologize for my son interrupting us. That was very rude of him. So I'm given to understand that your stake in my son's company has no value. You're part owner, he says, using little air quotes. We have a word for that in the language of deep gnomes, and he utters a word in deep gnomish that means roughly translates to garbage full. And this is what my son has taken you for. I'm going to make you a counteroffer. He's speaking to Gus. He says, if your stake in my son's boat is valued at negative 600 gold thereabouts, I will write you a promissory note for 1,200 gold pieces.
Gus,
Right now, to buy out your stake so that you abandon this foolish quest to become the next great Dunfosson detectives.
Gus pulls out his hammer and just slams it on the desk.
How hard? Are you going to break the desk?
I'm trying to break the desk is what I'm trying to do.
And you splinter part of the desk. And roll to hit.
Alex actually kind of is taken back by that.
Roll to hit, and don't roll poorly.
Oh, I should not have given him that spray.
That's a 20 to hit.
Good.
This is the
So
thing
you
that's
don't
happening.
hit the priceless history book currently standing on the desk. You splinter off part of the desk. The ambassador jumps backwards and immediately bellows for both of you to get out of his office.
Gus curses at him in Dwarvish and flips him off and then turns around to walk away.
Also, if you see any of those pigs flying, let me know. You know where to find me. On the way out. Jeez, Gus, I guess I shouldn't have left the spray with you. I mean, I was just kind of joking with myself, but wow.
People that kind of throw their money around like that.
Yeah, no, I told you. Two alchemical chemicals that can't be extinguished by water once you mix them.
Like that kind of behavior doesn't sit right with me.
Come on, I know a good place to get a couple of stiff drinks after that, because I need to cool off too.
Okay.
Seeker would have taken the money.
Seeker. Make a... What does your ear to the ground allow you to do exactly? What does it say you can do?
It says I have contacts in whatever area my quarry frequents.
Okay. And
It
what
can
area
be
would that
criminal
be?
or whatever. And what this allows me is to just find out information about people, places, locations in the area where I am.
And you're trying to figure out something about Leonid Hosnard?
Yeah, I'm trying to find out, like, what exactly is this guy's deal? Why did he come up here? Is he like
Okay.
black marketeer? Like, what's going on?
Let me get my map real quick. It is somewhere else. He's not a black marketeer. As far as you can tell, he's not into any kind of illicit trade at all. He has purchased a kind of partially dilapidated manor, probably here in the Northgates district somewhere, that he and his family are attempting to rebuild. The story goes a silver vein was discovered on his property, his family farm, some 100 miles or so out of Dunfoss, which made his family very wealthy very quickly. And he's tried to translate that into establishing a noble house in Northgates district. As far as you can tell, this guy is a well-meaning enough family man. He's a human. He has several children. He's taken the house name for himself, Hosnard. Nobody has any idea what it means or why, but he's a little in over his head. In terms of the underworld, especially people in Wharftown and other traders that come through in the Market District or in East Harbor, they know him to be a man who will throw good money after bad.
Okay.
Make me a charisma investigation check.
Alright.
So this is information you find without having to actually contact Hosnard or his house.
That is a 14.
A couple of weeks ago, there was some kind of deal where one of the people you know, a contact of a contact, worked as a go-between to find some kind of magic device and put Hosnard in the same room with somebody who had this device. The idea was that Hosnard was going to collect coin from somebody who wanted to purchase it, keep a finder's fee for himself. What your contact's contact knows that Hosnard did not was that the gold used to pay him was fake. It was enchanted gold, and there was no money at all. He got completely screwed.
Okay.
And that's what you learn with your check.
I think I'm going to spend my afternoon paying a call on Leonard Hosnard.
Okay. Lucius.
Yes, sir.
Arriving at the Chestnut Pie Inn in the morning.
Yes, the chestnut pie.
You get there for the big show where Journey comes down and has her breakfast with some of her followers, and she does. She has this ceremonial serrated keyskin knife that you recognize as kind of an ancient design that would be used in blood rites. And she uses it to open part of her arm and winces in the pain and clutches her fist. And in doing so, uses the blood to discharge the fire into the hearth of the chestnut pie. To the great aplomb of all of those gathered around, but you're like, yeah, whatever. That's fine. Tiefling shit, you know. And she's about to leave to get on with her day when you intercept her.
Yeah, and I would say, if you've got the time, Journey, I have I'm here to discuss matters of payment on our business arrangement.
She asks you if the threat has been neutralized. Have you taken care of this person who is trying to bring infernal control into Dunfoss?
Oh my god, borking is a thing.
Don't blame my dog for that.
I'm blaming him.
Give me 2 seconds, guys. I'll be right back. McDohl, think about what you want to do.
Oh my god, my brain is... I'm suddenly just completely, like, every time I try to do something, my brain just shuts down and I have no way to do that.
Well,
anyway.
We haven't finished the actual threat.
No, we haven't, and that's why I'm...
But just let them know, hey, we found this person who was going to blow up the town.
So what is it you tell her?
Expenses.
Yeah. Lucius says that we've discovered someone who was behind a plot to blow up a manor house in West Harbor.
Are you trying to pass this off as this was the base of the threat, and now that he's taken care of, the threat is over, or are you telling her the truth that this was just another pawn and you don't know who all's behind it yet?
Lucius would be forthright about that, yeah.
Okay. She asks what expenses you have incurred.
And Lucius will pull out a little scrap of paper from where he's copied from over from Alexander's notes and says, by our reckoning, we needed to determine where he was burrowing this place to make this explosion. So we needed to purchase some cartographer's tools for that, and I will itemize everything in this list, which is cartographer's tools for 15 gold, 2 gold for a crowbar, 25 gold.
And as you're starting to go down the lists, you hear a voice from across the room. Lucius, my good friend, you have come to visit. A fine morning this is. Will you break fast with me, brother? And you look over, and there's Corio, Fireblood, coming down the stairs with his big jaunty hat and a grin on his face, and Mr. Third Party at his side.
Corio, Fireblood, how are you doing today? I'm busy with a moment, but I can definitely make time for you in just a bit.
And Journey tells him, Corio, yes, Lucius was just itemizing some expenses I've agreed to pay for an investigation that he's looking into. And Corio is taken aback. Says, why? My fair lady, I didn't realize you were so interested in the case that I have brought before Flumph Inc. And the two of them have spend a few moments talking past each other as they both think they're talking about different cases.
Both very important cases.
Oh man!
Lots of
We never
plates spinning,
promised
guys.
time.
Lots of plates spinning, you guys.
So, they'll figure it out in a couple of seconds, but are you going to correct them, or?
Yes, I will.
Journey says, well, perhaps we should sit down together. You can tell Corio everything you've told me about the investigation into the flying pig. Certainly this is important, and a man of Corio's status and wealth could be a valuable ally in this investigation, don't you think? Corio absolutely agrees. He thinks this is a remarkable idea, and he would be delighted to dine with such fine tieflings as Journey and Lucius.
Certainly.
Why did that sound really racist?
They're rare in Dunfoss. You don't get a chance to eat breakfast with two tieflings very often. Lucius, you find yourself kind of roped into a 6-course breakfast situation that Corio is sponsoring for 80 or 90 of his closest friends. To which Journey was invited this morning to have one of her philosophical debates. and you find yourself sandwiched between the two of them. And you have a rapt audience of nobility and wealth and foreign merchantmen from all across the land, people as far away as Blue Worm. And at one point, Journey asks you to relay the importance of this investigation and how much danger Dunfoss is coming under because of pacts with fiends and illicit magics that you are seeking to put a stop to.
And Lucius plays along.
So
How
this
are,
is
so
the
how are you playing along? Like,
So so I actually see an opportunity here
okay,
because we've already made a pretty big break into rooting out this one plot to blow up a house in West Harbor.
mm-hmm.
And for very reasonable prices.
So if I'm following you here,
Yeah.
are you trying to sell Warlock Insurance to these people? Is this Flumph Inc. brand Warlock Insurance?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
So the next question, this is crucial. Do you actually have a practical service in mind that you're going to pitch? Or are you just going to give them like some nebulous promise of give me gold and your house won't explode?
No, we can schedule you to do a survey of your lands and see if there's any potential places for intrusion as to where, similar to how they intruded on this land in West Harbor. Basically, I'm going to be like, okay, Alex, time to put your money where your mouth is. Let's
Make an insight check.
Let's see here. Oh, that's not good. You're asking Lucius to make an insight check.
I sure am, buddy. Mr.
16!
16. The nobility of Dunfoss, the people... Well, I say nobility. These are Corio's, like, 18, 19-year-old frat boy friends. No small amount of foreign merchantmen coming around. Many of them seem to be hanging off of this idea of, well, Journey has told us that there are powerful fiends at work here, and now you're telling us there is a company that we can hire to survey our land and make sure that we're not... You have their attention. But what you notice is that Journey is very disapproving, because she has met with you under the pretense of you trying to prevent this fiend's excursion into Dunfoss, which you have now turned into a monetization opportunity. But she doesn't step in your way, and she doesn't say anything about it. But you can tell that she likes this less and less the more that you go on about it. Corio likes it more and more.
I mean, here's the thing, though, is like it's a legitimate thing that Corio just kind of like. I was perfectly fine to just talk shop with her one-on-one, but apparently Corio had other ideas.
Oh, we're blaming this on Corio. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lucius 100% blames Corio for this problem.
So here's what we're gonna do, Lucius. This is a
Okay.
resource that you're going to earn here.
All right.
For the foreseeable future, you or any employee of Flumph Inc. can take the work action, which I think it's in Xanathar's as a downtime action,
Yeah.
in pursuit of this, like, Warlock Insurance idea. We'll go to your house, we'll see if there's any potential incursion points. We'll make sure there's no fell magic, whatever promises you're making. And the work action is page 134. And you
Okay.
can make double whatever you roll for a day's work.
All right. Okay.
But we will also be rolling work complications every time you do that.
Okay. Sounds fun.
After the meal, Journey offers to make good on a portion of the expenses.